Give me a shot. Hey, good morning. What's happening, everybody? Robert Phoenix here, broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg, Texas, where it is a wonderful, probably about 75, 76 degrees out right now in the morning. We'll hit the 90s today. The weather here is going to start to get gorgeous, just got to say. It's the best time of year to come to Texas. September and October, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I also think April and May are pretty good, although April can be a little bit spotty sometimes, but April and May are great. October, September, those are the four best months if you want to come hang out in Texas. You want to come to my event, the Hill Country Harvest Moon event. I still have a few spaces left, and the cutoff for that is this Friday because after that, my rooms go away. So if you want to hang out, I think we've got about 38 people now, which is a really, really nice kind of like number for a group. I'm hoping to get a little bit more. Like I'd like to get at least 4 or 5 more people. My original goal was to get about 50 to 55. If we get in there around 40, I'm happy right now. Some spots are available, but it would be great to have as many people experience this as possible because when I talk to people who are going to come to the event, all I get is just unbridled enthusiasm. Okay, and just to let you know, give you one more kind of a synopsis, you're going to experience hill country cuisine. You're going to be at a hotel that's got 2 swimming pools, one that actually overlooks the river that runs through Kerrville. It's a great, great pool. I got to tell you, both the pools are really, really great. We're going to be going to Enchanted Rock, which is a fantastic nature spot just north of Fredericksburg. We're going to be doing some yoga right there in Enchanted Rock. Chris Crimmy, who is a regular contributor to the show along with her husband Steve, will be working on dowsing and teaching us how to douse right up there in Enchanted Rock. I wish Jasper could come to Enchanted Rock, but I'm not sure. You know, Jasper's one of these cats that I think would follow along. I think he's a follow along cat. I used to have a cat that would do that. You go for a walk and he would just follow along with you. You know, he was a character, that cat. We're going to have a concert with my friend Stephen Kent. I'm going to be doing an interview with Stephen Kent today at about 11 a.m. my time, and I'm going to play it tomorrow on the Friday Farcast, so you guys can get a sense as to Stephen's personality and what he does and who he is. He's a great guy. We're going to have a kind of a health forum going on with Glenn Streeter and Emily Moyer. Joan Safsick, biological dentist. We've got astrology with myself. We're going to be doing a live version of the Friday Farcast, and guess what? The people who are attending the event, they're my guests. That's right. If you are into the chat room, you're into Chatlandia, you're going to get to see these people. They're going to come up. They're going to spend a couple of minutes with me. We're just going to talk. We're going to hang out. It's going to be so cool. And I got a few other surprises along the way. So anyway, I'll leave the link in the show page today. And if you want to attend, it's still not too late. Like I said, I still have I've got a few spots left, and the rooms get shut down after Friday. Okay? All right. Business out of the way. There's a lot happening in the world. We are on full tilt boogie, people. There is the machinery now is just moving into place. It's just you could just see sort of the parts, the particular parts being assembled as we speak. Let me just check in with Chatroom, Chatlandia, see what's going on there with you guys. Oh, what do we got here? Let's see. It's always fun for me to navigate and toggle with Jasper, trying to get his little whiskers in on the action. Okay, we got. There's Raven, there's Judy, Uncle Glenn, Phoebe, Joan, and Miranda. Hi, Miranda. JP Love, what's happening, JP Love? Hey, JP Love, I will be in Philadelphia in October, the weekend after the Hill Country events. I will be in Philadelphia. I'll be at Solutions. Let me click over into this other broadcast mode here. Give me 1 second. Help me deal with the latency. Yeah, so I'll be at Solutions in October, the weekend after the Hill Country event. So you guys who are in the Philadelphia area, if you want to hang out, want to get some readings, you want to listen to one of my talks, that'll be happening. Okay, we got Michael there, and let's see, Tesmerk. Let's see, that's Christy. I think that's Christy. There's Ani, and there's Lynn. Hey, Lynn. It is coffee time. I am drinking a little bit of coffee this morning as well. All right, so we got everybody over there. 108 Dragon 14, and I think that's it for roll call over on that side, and then over on the other side, over on the 15 side, anybody hanging out there? We got a few people. Good morning to you guys over on the 15 Minutes of Flame side as well. All right. So why don't we get into the hot topics on today's show? So I think probably the number one sort of hot topic, besides Jasper getting entangled in my earbuds, the amazing capacity, the amazing uses of a tail. I'm telling you, man, the tail is very underrated. I just have to say. The tail is a highly underrated, and that part of a cat's anatomy. Okay, let me get over to. Give me 1 second here. Now I've got the spinning ball of rainbow death. Oh, come on! All right, there we go. Okay, so let's get into some of the big ticket items today. Again, so yesterday I was talking about the election in Israel and that how I don't understand the election process. I got a better handle on it now, I think, in case you were all just losing sleep over it last night, trying to figure out how those friggin' elections work. So apparently what happened last time, and this was in April, because there was an election in April, and Netanyahu won, but his party, Likud, who basically... kind of the war hawks. I mean, I think they're all war hawks. Like this guy, Gantz Gans is his name, Benny Gantz. Anyway, that guy was an IDF commander, so he's just as militaristic as Netanyahu. It's not like one guy's going to come in and save the day and turn the whole thing around and say, oh, we love the Palestinians and let's tear down the walls and let's integrate them into our society. No, he's not going to do that. Even though he is sort of the head of this kind of more social democratic or more kind of social liberal party. So there are these two parties, and there's a third party that is kind of in the middle now, and the third party has like 9 representatives, and apparently Gantz and Netanyahu have equal amounts of representatives, so they're basically in a tie. Let me get to the graphic here so you guys can see this. So this is from the Daily Mail. Israel faces an unprecedented third election as Netanyahu's main rival demands he take over as prime minister, putting hopes of a unity government in doubt. Israel held elections in April with Netanyahu coming out on top, but he failed to build a working coalition. So his second vote was called. So working coalition is really basically a majority. Like, okay, we're calling the shots and you can work with us. The prime minister lost seats, leaving him and rival Benny Gantz at a stalemate. Both said that they want to form a government of national unity, but it is unclear whether they can reach a process. Gantz says he should be prime minister. So because of this standoff, Netanyahu is essentially refusing to step down. It's like, no, I'm not leaving. I'm going to still be prime minister. So Netanyahu, of course, is Likud, and Gantz, his party is the blue and white, which is, of course, the color of the Israeli flag, the blue and the white. So under Israel's election system, the country's president picks a party leader who he feels is most able to form a government, usually the one with the most seats. which in this case would be Gantz. So this is a weird kind of process. It's not like, okay, you lose, you step down. That's just the way it goes. Time for the new boss, same as the old boss. If that fails, so the part of the 42 days to try and form a government, after which the president can give another candidate 28 days to form a coalition. If that, look at all this. This is like it's like a used car contract. If that fails, the president can assign another parliament member the task of building a government, or you can call new elections something that's never happened. I mean, there are more outs in these clauses than God. I don't know. I don't know what the metaphor would be. But there's a lot of outs in those clauses. Well, maybe. Well, maybe. Well, maybe. What about this? What about that? Well, it didn't really work. You don't have enough over here. Well, there's a lot. You know what this is? This is an election with a lot of kibitzing. This is an election with a lot of kibitzing. That's what it is. With nearly all votes counted Thursday, the Blue and the White Party stood at 33 seats in Israel's 120-seat parliament, while Netanyahu's Likud stood at 31. So this guy's party has a 2-seat advantage. Everyone need to get off their high horse to prevent elections for a third time. Likud lawmaker David Batan told Israeli Army Radio. Blue White's desire for government unity under their terms will not work. Neither party can form a government of at least 61 seats without support of the election's apparent kingmaker, Avigdor Lieberman. The Israel Betinu party, this guy's got 9 seats apparently. So he can toss those 9 seats anywhere he wants. He can go in Netanyahu's direction, or he can go in Gantz's direction. So they've got one guy who's like a kingmaker. And wasn't Lieberman sort of the Secretary of Defense? Or he's a total hawk. Lieberman is a total hawk. So who knows where this thing is going to go? It's bizarre. And now they're trying to carry out this wonderful grand Middle East peace process where they're going to annex the Palestinians. Meanwhile, they've got this massive build-out of the intelligence, communication, information, and data infrastructure that is taking place, which I talked about yesterday in yesterday's show. It's a really, really big deal. This guy, Paul Singer, who is Trump's one of Trump's biggest supporters, donors. Trump's known him for years. Paul Singer just bought a controlling share in AT&T. His hedge fund company went in and said, "We're going to grab a big share." So now they're going to be able to determine sort of the direction of AT&T. And AT&T owns CNN, which I'm sure Trump is doing cartwheels about now because he hates CNN, and his buddy now owns a controlling share in the company that owns CNN. So that's coming up roses for Trump. Anyway, the process is almost as insane as ours. I mean, we go back to the last election when the Democrats basically had a big middle finger to Bernie Sanders. And basically, the whole thing with primaries is bullshit. It's bullshit. If the party wants to appoint somebody or anoint somebody, they can do it. They don't have to go. They don't have to get behind what their electorate says or what their delegates say, because it was clear that Bernie Sanders was the choice of the delegates, the Democratic Party delegates. And that was never going to happen. Hillary Clinton was going to be their candidate from the jump. So all this stuff that you see with these debates and all this circus and all this. Here's another old world word for you. Old school word for you. Falderall. Nobody uses falderall anymore, but all this falderall. Do you know that was a word that? Do you know where a really good source of like vocabulary was for me when I was a kid, besides my parents, because I was an only child. My parents didn't, they didn't baby talk me, and I would always ask, what does that mean? What does that word mean, right? But another really good source of vocabulary was cartoons. If you go back and you look at cartoons from the '60s, cartoons like Top Cat, Mr. Magoo. There were words, Aesop's fables, fractured fairy tales. They would use words that were polysyllabic, and you'd have to figure them out. A lot of those cartoons were kind of made for adults, sort of like now, but adults with different kinds of weird predilections. Um, anyway, it's going to be the process. We've got issues with our own process, and this whole idea that these debates actually mean something is really a crock of shit because they really don't. All they do is kind of reinforce the talking points, reinforce the echo chamber, and the right has their own version. If there was a Democratic candidate who was running for re-election, we'd see it on the right side, and they wouldn't deviate very much. Although I think on the right, here's what I will say about the left and the Democratic Party: they don't deviate, right? I mean, they've got their talking points and they've got their marching orders, and they don't deviate. Once they say this is what we're going to do, this is what the party stands for, this is what we're going to talk, that's what they do. On the right, you'll get the right gets a little soft. They get a little softy, like around immigration and shit like that. They'll get softy. Say, well, I am working on a plan for controlled amnesty, and we're looking at solutions that are smarter. I'm very, 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 pro limiting immigration, but we want to do it the right way. That includes things like surveillance, biometrics. We have a whole host of options we didn't have 20, 30 years ago. So yes, I'm very concerned about the immigration crisis and process, but I want to look at this from a different angle and different perspective. I want to take advantage of 21st century tools and software and methodology that we didn't have before. See, that's where the Republicans, the Republicans will always go soft. Talk about the environment, right? They'd say, I think, yes, we really need to have a much better handle on the environment. That's why I'm really pushing for something like clean coal. And they get soft. Would I be willing to sit down and talk with the Democratic Party about gun control? Absolutely. Absolutely, because again, we have the technology at our disposal where we can find early warning threats. That we can use these tools that we've developed over the years to determine who's really unsafe and shouldn't have a firearm. Other than that, I'm for the Second Amendment. I mean, talking about both sides. You see, that's how they would go. At least with the left, in some ways, you know where they stand now. Before, you didn't know where they stood. There was this guy, Nat Hentoff, who was a columnist for the Village Voice, very interesting guy. And he had this one article which was kind of echoing the thoughts of Malcolm X. And both Nat Hentoff and Malcolm X concurred that somebody who was supposedly on the right or conservative were much more trustworthy than the liberals were. Like Malcolm X didn't trust liberals, and neither did Nat Hentoff, because at least on the right, you knew where they were coming from. You knew what they stood for. And if they were a cracker or they were racist or whatever, they had that line in the sand and you knew what you were dealing with. Whereas the left, it's a slippery slope of their humanism, right? Their objective morality or subjective morality rather. So anyway, the tables have turned now. With the left, you know what you're getting. You're getting red diaper babies. You're getting people that want to take out the guns, and ultimately, if they are going to initiate some of these big programs that they'd like to initiate, I think ultimately you'd have the seizure of private property as part of their kind of socialist plank, and then working with the corporations in order to forward a new governing model. Okay. So, anyway, keep your eyes on what's going on in Israel. It's kind of a clusterfuck, and I'm sure there's deals being made behind closed doors, and it would be interesting just to see how Trump would deal with this guy Gantz, because he's got a long-term relationship with Netanyahu, and Netanyahu slept in Jared Kushner's bed. Think about that. Why couldn't the guy just get a hotel or something? Unless Jared Kushner's room was just so freaky outrageous. Why don't they? These people, don't they have a lot of money? The Kushners, don't they have an extra room in their house for Netanyahu to sleep in? Or maybe it's like some kind of weird like little psyop, like okay, here comes the big alpha, here comes the big alpha wolf from Israel, little omega wolf Jared, you got to go sleep on the couch. Maybe that was part of the whole deal. I don't know, but you get the connection, you get the family connection. So it'd be interesting to see what happens if this guy Gantz does get into power. I'm sure Trump would, in total Trumpian fashion. Oh, I've looked forward to working with Prime Minister Gantz. We have a great plan in place. Da, 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 da. That's all. That's what you get from Trump. He can't even admit that Israel was spying on the U.S. It's a really interesting point because they were busted, right? They were busted on spying around the White House. So why would they spy around the White House if their guy who has been essentially making Israel first? Why would they spy on him if they love him so much? If he's such an integral part to their Yinan plan and the Talpiot program and all that stuff, why would they spy on him? It's a really interesting question, and it's one that Donald Trump should probably be asking himself. Although he probably does and doesn't want to look at the answer, or maybe he just says keep your friends close, your enemies closer, so close that he keeps his son-in-law in the White House. Okay, now I tell you what, man, that is so Machiavellian. I bet you this is how sophisticated Trump is. That he time traveled and he found out that all this was going to happen, so he arranged the marriage of Ivanka to Jared Kushner, knowing that if he could have Jared Kushner in the White House, he could watch his every move and stay on top of him, right? So that way, if anything shaky or weird or anything compromising to the American people, that Trump ultimately would know what's happening and where to go. So if that's the case, boy, this is just brilliant. This is not just 5D chess, this is 6D chess. That Trump married his daughter off to Jared Kushner so that ultimately he could have control over the whole game. And that maybe even Ivanka Trump is in on it. And she's a spy in the House of Love. That's deep. I don't know if that's deep, but it's kind of complicated. There's a lot of layers there. I think it's an Occam razor, really. It's just a lot more simple than that. Speaking of Trump, he went to California, and guess what? He addressed the homeless problem. He addressed the homeless problem. And he brought Ben Carson with him. I actually really like Ben Carson. I think Ben Carson is a decent guy. He's a Virgo. What's not to like about Ben Carson? Anyway, they went in and they basically teamed up. They tag teamed on Gavin Newsom, and they tore California a new asshole, which I think needs to happen. Let me read this to you. So his comment is that the homeless issue is truly a disaster, and it is. So let me read this. At the same time that President Donald Trump and Housing Department and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson are promising federal action to intervene in homelessness in California, they're rejecting requests from officials for help in escalating the blame game between the federal government and the state. By the way, isn't Trump's son shagging Kim Guilfoyle? Kim Guilfoyle used to be Gavin Newsom's wife. How about that for All in the Family? Here, let me read this. They're rejecting requests from local officials for help in escalating the blame game between the federal government and the state. California Governor Newsom and local leaders, including mayors of the state's 13 largest cities, wrote to Trump this week to ask for more federal funds to expand programs like housing vouchers and that help people get off the street into stable living situations. So now they're going to the federal government. We need your money for the housing vouchers. Let me tell you, California has so much fucking money. They have so much money. California has private books and they have public books. They have a thing called, what is it? Is it Kair? Basically, what California has all these private investments. And they've got a shitload of money in private investments. In terms of private investments, endowments, universities, all that stuff, they're rich. If California wanted to, they could use a lot of that money and turn that money loose, and they don't need the federal government. But, California is a state where it's like, okay, well, we're going to make our own rules and our own laws, and we're going to have sanctuary cities. At the end of the day, we want your money. It's kind of like having an ongoing spat with your parents. It's kind of like, fuck you. You're not going to get to be able to see the grandkids. That's not happening. Oh, by the way, can you make sure we're in your will? And oh, by the way, can you help out Junior with his college education? Oh, how come you didn't send money on this very important occasion? Right? It's kind of like that's what the relationship is. Let me keep going. We can all agree that homelessness is a national crisis, decades in the making, that demands action at every level of government, local, state, and federal. In California, state and local governments have ramped up action to lift families out of poverty by investing in behavioral health. What the fuck is that? Affordable housing and other homeless programs. In contrast, your administration has proposed significant cuts to public housing and programs like community development block grants. The Trump administration has rejected that request. This is where Carson lays into California. Your letter seeks federal dollars for California from hardworking American taxpayers, but fails to admit that your state and local policies have played a major role in the current crisis, Secretary Carson wrote in a letter responding to the leaders. He's right. If California's homeless population had held in line with overall population trends, America's homeless rate would have decreased. Instead, the opposite has happened. As California unsheltered homelessness population skyrocketed as a result of the state's overregulated housing market, its inefficient allocation of resources, and its policies that have weakened law enforcement. Okay, so there's a lot going on there, and I want to unpack some of that. So, what Carson is saying is a couple different things. Let's break it down one by one. Overregulated housing market. So what's happening is California is shifting very rapidly to an Agenda 21 and an Agenda 2030 model. And they're actually putting a limit now on single family dwellings. So there are areas in California where no new development can take place. Why? Because they want to move people into the mega cities, the megalopolises. So when that happens, you put a squeeze on people, and guess what? Like, for instance, what about the Paradise Fire? They haven't done shit in Paradise. They haven't rebuilt most of anything in Paradise. Where did all those people go? What about the fires in Southern California? All those people that were displaced, where did they go? They're not building any new homes. How did California step up and help them? Anyway, the reason why the housing market is overregulated is they're moving to an Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 model. Nobody talks about this, though. Ben Carson may be able to talk about it in code or in this kind of inference, right? He would infer that this is what's happening. It's inefficient allocation of resources. Yes, I would say that most governments in general are involved in the inefficient allocation of resources. That's what they do, because when they allocate resources, they're essentially making themselves indispensable. It's part of the deal. And policies that have weakened law enforcement. Well, that's an interesting one because they've got catch and release programs, and really what Ben Carson is referring to is the obstinate position that California has taken with ICE in dealing with people who are undocumented. Carson says he wrote the letter at the president's request. It's just amazing that sorry about that. Didn't mean to go there. It's just amazing that Ben Carson is still around. This guy is loyal to the core. You've had people jumping off the USS Trump right and left, but Ben Carson, he's still there. You got to love this guy, at least for his loyalty. And I think he's actually bright. I think he's very bright. Carson says he wrote a letter at the president's request. Housing advocates tell me there are some state and local policies that have led to the affordable housing shortage in California, but that many local leaders and voters in California have supported changing them. That's right. There's a guy by the name of Grindall. I used to get his videos. I'm not getting notifications for his videos anymore. This guy has been a one-man wrecking crew on Agenda 21 2030. And what he does is he shows people going to the city council meetings and showing up en masse and voicing their concern about the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 scheme that's taking place, and also the unregulated, unabated sanctuary acidification of California. It's kind of a 1-2 punch. And they go to these town hall meetings, they go to their city council meetings, and essentially the city council members, and I've seen this before, they will turn their backs on them. That's how responsive the state of California is. Let me keep reading. They also say that while there needs to be more focus and investment on expanding affordable housing, it could take decades for that to impact homelessness. And in the meantime, there needs to be more federal investment providing immediate help to get the people off the street. In addition to blaming regulations, Carson's letter specifically says California has undercut the ability of police officers to enforce quality of life laws, remove encampments, and connect our most vulnerable populations with supportive services they need. It adds that California has not applied for federal funding to add more beds in psychiatric hospitals to provide services for individuals that need services for mental illness or grave disability. Well, that's an interesting point. So California is saying we need more money, but they're not asking for more money on the psych side to help these people get off the street, get them into an institution, and who knows what happens there. That's good luck. One would hope that they would get some help, mostly for their addiction. And the letter also blames California's sanctuary policies, saying illegal and inadmissible aliens are increasing housing demand and draining resources. He's right. He's right. But then California will say, well, we need these people because we don't have people to work. Well, why don't you walk around the cities of California, Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Francisco, quite possibly San Jose, San Diego. There's plenty of people to work. They're living in fucking tents, okay? There's plenty of people to work. It's a numbers game. Get them off the streets, rehabilitate them, get them into a position where they can do some kind of work. You got players on the bench. Fix them up. Bring them back into being human again. But Carson has a point here. It says the Trump administration is addressing the problem by improving border security to reduce drug use. Okay, let me give you just a quick hit on the drug stuff. Kind of bit of insider info. Last week, I was down in Kerrville, talked to a really interesting 19-year-old kid who opened a shop down there called Laptops and Guns with a Z. And he sells CBD oil and kratom too. And I'm like, I gotta stop here and talk to this kid or this place. I didn't even know it was a kid, 19-year-old kid. And this kid was dialed in, lived in Kerrville. He knew exactly what was going on in Kerrville. Exactly what was going on. And then this guy wanders in, and he's kind of like he's like a Breaking Bad kind of character. He's a lawyer who was drying out in Kerrville. And while he was drying out, he decided that that he was going to practice law from his rehab situation. So 2 months into his rehab, he's a lawyer. So he starts practicing law while he's in rehab, winds up staying in Kerrville. He's been there for 2.5 years now, clean and sober. And he comes in, we start talking about shit, and he says, we need to form some kind of a conspiracy group. Because we got into it really fast. When people are there, right? When people, have their peepers open, you can get to places really fast. You could just So now the three of us are kind of exchanging information at a pretty high level. Anyway, the young kid told me that there's a huge meth problem in Kerrville. Oh, go figure. So there's a big meth problem there, and apparently the meth is coming up from Mexico. It's not the meth itself, but it's the stuff, right? The chemical compounds that they use to cook the meth, because you can't get that stuff here in the United States anymore. If you start to get like huge amounts of ephedrine and basically liquid plumber and all that shit, red flag, red flag, red flag. So now it comes up from Mexico, and apparently there's some biker gang in Bandera now that they're the ones that are controlling this meth trade, right? But I'm telling you this because it's a big deal. Like, the drug thing is a really, really big deal. And the way that they're getting this stuff across the border and into the U.S. is mind-blowing. Like, they will basically bolt drums, those industrial drums. They'll literally weld them to the sides of ships, and like on the bow, on the bottom of the ships, the underbelly of these ships, they'll have all these industrial drums basically welded to them. And then when they come into port, there's a guy who'll go in with his tanks. He'll take his welding gun, your welding torch, but you can use those underwater, right? So, and then detach these drums, float them out, and then they've got their raw materials. And that's not the only way, but it's a big deal. So the drug thing coming from Mexico cannot be underestimated. It's my mechanic. Anyway, so California needs to address these obvious local issues within its control to help address the catastrophe. When California has shown it is willing to make hard, thoughtful choices to address these issues, the Trump administration stands ready to support its efforts. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Earlier today, Carson told reporters the federal government could start giving preference for housing grants to cities to commit to reduce regulations on developers. He specifically mentioned rules like requirements for solar panels or new developments, or limits on having multiple families in one home, as regulations that could be lifted to make it easier and cheaper for developers to build and expand affordable housing across the country. So basically what Ben Carson is saying is like, okay, you've got the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 model, and that's what you're investing in. You're making it harder for development to take place. Well, if you loosen the reins on that and you move off your Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 smart cities model, then we'll help you. Yeah, it could all just be smoke and bullshit. But at that level, it makes sense. I get it. And California, I think, needs a pushback. Unfortunately, it's not going to help the people that are on the streets. And look, they've got plenty of fucking money, all right? They've got plenty of money. Free up your own cash. Don't ask somebody else to solve your problems. Don't ask somebody like in Texas or somebody in Maryland or somebody in Ohio or somebody in Pennsylvania. Don't ask us to solve your problems. Solve your own fucking problems. You got plenty of cash. Huge, huge, huge income. Huge. California, I think, is like top 10. If you separated California out from the rest of the United States, they're like one of the top 10 producing entities on the entire planet. Okay? So, good on the pushback. All right. Let me cover something else here while we still have some time. Switching gears. You guys are going to love this. I love this graphic. This got my attention yesterday because Mike Adams, the health ranger, who's a Virgo, I think, by the way. That guy looks like a Virgo, doesn't he? He's got that Virgo vibe. Anyway, Amazon tests Whole Foods payment systems that uses hands as ID. Look, if you're going to do this, if you're going to sign up for your hand scan, you need to have your brain scanned, because this is the first step towards the magic, palm-waving, implantable chip magic that they want to take this to, right? The biometric, this is the key now. We're inching closer and closer to that biometric moment. I'm going to read this to you. You guys haven't seen this. You need to pay attention. It's kind of an important development here. This is from the New York Post. I love that graphic. Forget the titanium Apple Card. Amazon's latest payment method uses flesh and blood. The e-tailing giant's engineers are quietly testing scanners that can identify an individual human hand as a way to ring up a store purchase, with the goal of rolling them out at its Whole Foods supermarket chain in the coming months. The Post has learned employees of Amazon's New York offices are serving as guinea pigs for the biometric technology, using it at a handful, get it, handful, of vending machines to buy such items as sodas, chips, granola bars, and phone chargers, according to sources briefed on the plans. The high-tech sensors are different from fingerprint scanners found on devices like the iPhone and don't require users to physically touch their hands to the scanning surface. It's just the wave of the hand. Instead, they use computer vision and depth geometry to process and identify the shape and size of each hand they scan before changing their credit card on file. The system, codenamed Orville, will allow customers with Amazon Prime accounts to scan their hands at the store and link them to their credit or debit card. Now remember, I talked about this movement away from cash, and the incentivization of that will be discounts. Discounts. Your card, your phone, your hand, whatever mode of transaction you'll be involved with will also be linked to discount services, coupon services, so that you will actually wind up buying more or being able to get more. I'm already doing it, to be honest with you. I'm doing it in a minor way. I'm just letting you know. In my town, we have natural grocers. I signed up for their email list. I get significant discounts in the store. You know, a really great carton of eggs, high quality eggs, which would be $5.99, $6.99 in some stores, $3.99 there. I'm making a deal with them. They're using my information. I'm being transparent. But I'm getting a deal on eggs. Okay? All right. I would not make this deal, though. If it had to come down from me in the hand and a $7 carton of eggs, I'd either get lesser quality eggs or just, bite the bullet. Let me continue to read this. It is accurate to within 1/1000th, 1%, but Amazon engineers are scrambling to improve it to a millionth of 1% ahead of its launch. So they would make a mistake out of 1 out of a million hands. Think about that. Amazon hopes to introduce the tech to a handful of Whole Foods stores by the beginning of next year. You know one of those is going to be in Austin, because people in Austin just go gaga over that shit. Hi, are you enrolled in Orville? Oh yes, I am. Great. Scan your hand. That's it. That's it. Thank you. Wow, that was amazing. I know, right? And guess what? You saved 15%. Oh my God, that's incredible. Thank you. By the way, I am not linked to Amazon Prime, which I do have, because I need to get stuff out here kind of in the boonies. And I also use Amazon Prime as one of my viewing sources. So anyway, again, transparent. But I don't have it linked to Whole Foods, and I refuse to do that. Amazon hopes to introduce the tech to a handful of Whole Foods stores by the beginning of next year, and to eventually expand the super fast checkout tech to all U.S. locations. Now, if that's the case, then guess what Amazon will do? They will license the technology to other stores. So you think Whole Foods will be the only store that will have this? You are wrong. And Amazon says, we don't comment on rumors or speculation. With a regular card transaction, typically takes between 3 to 4 seconds. Amazon's new technology processes the charge in less than 300 milliseconds. A person familiar with the project said, retailers have been interested in faster checkout. Majid Maqsad, founder and CEO of Status Money, a personal finance site, told the Post, you only have to walk into Whole Foods to see the massive lines of people waiting to check out. It's a massive friction point. What the fuck is wrong with people? Stand in line. Stand in line and talk to somebody, okay? It's a massive friction point. What does that mean, a massive friction point? Are people going to start punching each other out? Listen, bitch, I don't like your fucking tattoo. Okay? I don't like it. Oh, yeah? Well, guess what? I don't like the way you put that gel in your hair, you asshole. And the next thing you know, you got to... Where they really should be doing this is the fast food joints. Because I got to tell you, there's some battle royales that go down in those fast food joints. But that's another story. If successful, the technology could help encourage consumers to spend more when they visit Whole Foods. Here we go. People tend to spend more when they don't have to experience touching something tangible like money. The utility of money becomes more ephemeral. Money, wow, it's kind of like, it's just this magical thing. It's just kind of floating all around us. Zeros and ones are moving through us all the time, which is actually quite true, by the way, if you think about it. Zeros and ones are moving through me right now. Right now, because, well, not right now, because I'm using the jacked in directly, but they're moving around all the time. So theoretically, we are rich beyond belief. If only we could capture those zeros and ones, because they represent data, and data is money. They represent currency. If you go into your account, your bank account, it's made up of zeros and ones. Until you go to an instant teller or ATM or a bank, and all of a sudden the wave becomes a particle. And that's what happens. So there's this idea, oh, everything is just floating around. There's money everywhere. And I don't need to look at my wallet. I just wave my hand. I am the magical dispenser of particles and waves, zeros and ones. I am God. When I go to the checkout stand, I am God. With the new hand-based tech, shoppers won't even have to bring their phones. Well, because eventually you'll have the Neuralink in your head and you won't need a phone, right? I mean, think about that. Think about that for a second. You'll have the Neuralink. You'll have Elon Musk's Neuralink. And you'll just say, in your head, you'll say, please call Jasper. Meow. Meow. Oh, hey, Jasper. How's it going? Meow. Because Jasper, of course, pets will have the Neuralink as well. Oh, that would be a great selling point. Talk to your pets. Talk to your pets. Did you know animals can receive pet link? Now you can have telepathic neural link up communication with your animals. Say goodbye to calling your dog by name. If your dog has a funny name, like Balthazar, you might be embarrassed to call for Balthazar. Now all you have to do is call for Balthazar in your head. Balthazar, you asshole, where are you? Get home. And I can just imagine Balthazar speaking back. Hey, fuck you. I found a poodle about 4 blocks away. I'm busy. I'll get back there when I damn well please. Click. This brave new world, people, with the wave of a hand. You are the creator. Let's see, Stephanie Hare, an independent researcher who specializes in technology ethics, noted that countries with robust surveillance programs like China already use biometric checkouts at some stores, and noted that Amazon appears to have made a decision to not use facial recognition. Oh boy, isn't that nice of Amazon? But because China does it and it's robust, well, guess what? We should do it too. Why not? Keep up with the Yangs. I think they probably made a judgment call that Americans are probably not going to want to pay with their face. But be fine to pay with their fingerprint or the hand. That feels less like a mugshot. Consumers should avoid giving up their biometric data, Hare says, pointing out that if a company gets hacked, it can take 6 or more years for consumers to unwind the data theft. Why would you give them that data? People don't understand the risk and they're oversold the benefits, she said. Good for her. Stephanie Hare takes you down the rabbit hole with biometrics. We have a couple of nation states that are really good at stealing data right now. Oh, yeah, that's right. Just ask Paul Singer. Okay, about ready to get on out of here, boys and girls. Let's see where we are in Chatlandia. Let's see, where are you at? Let's see. Yes, I'd love to hear about your community vision. You're free. You're on fire this week, Robert. Haha, tattoos and hair gel. Only here. Well, I'd love to hear y'all. Can't afford the Harvest Festival, but I have a friend who is sick in Braunfels. I plan to go there and help. So, Diana, if you can, you should just come out for one day. I do have some day passes, so I would say probably the best day to come out would probably be Sunday when we go to Enchanted Rock. So if you want to go, you're in the area, send me an email. I've got kind of a one-day buy-in. I've got some people who are attending one day. So Diana, don't let the price point be an impediment. Okay? Don't let a price point be an impediment. Let's see. We do have the telepathic abilities. Absolutely. Okay. All right. I'm going to get on out of here. So, listen, ladies and gentlemen, use your head to discern what's real, your heart to discern what's possible. Stay strong, stay supple, and more importantly, stay in the moment because you are more than you know. And we're trying to peel back those layers and keep the noise from interrupting the signal so that we can be at perfect pitch with our spirit, with our creator, and with one another. All right, God bless. It's Robert Phoenix. I'm signing off. Have yourself a wonderful